Okay, let's unpack this. We are plunging into a deep dive today, exploring a really fundamental aspect of human connection and influence, too.
Mm.
We've got a focused stack of source material for this one. It's all centered around, well, a single chapter from a classic book about making friends and, navigating life effectively.
And our mission here is pretty sharp and clear.
Hmm.
We're pulling out the absolute core insights, the actionable knowledge nuggets from this chapter that you, listening right now, can genuinely use starting today.
Absolutely, because this source material presents an idea that feels, well, almost upside down compared to how we usually think. Our instincts, maybe.
Yeah, it definitely challenges some common assumptions and makes some surprising observations about what actually grabs people's attention and what really builds connection.
It zeroes in on a core principle that, if you get it right, the source argues can basically transform your interactions.
So let's just dive right in then.
Yeah, let's get right to it. What's the very first foundational principle this chapter lays out? It's deceptively simple. Become genuinely interested in other people.
Okay, genuinely interested. Simple words, but the source immediately hits you with a powerful contrast. It makes this really striking claim.
Which is?
You can make more friends in 2 months by becoming genuinely interested in other people
Okay.
than you can in 2 years trying to get other people interested in you.
Wow. Okay, that contrast is the core insight right there, isn't it?
Exactly.
We're often conditioned, maybe unconsciously, to put on a show, to be impressive, focus on getting others to notice us.
Right. Look at me.
Yeah. But the material here suggests that's incredibly inefficient, maybe even counterproductive for building real rapport.
It uses this wonderful, almost heartwarming analogy, a dog.
Ah, yes, the dog.
Think about it. It's one of the few beings that makes a living purely by giving affection. Just sheer, unadulterated joy and enthusiasm for you without needing anything back, really.
Right, no ulterior motive. The author shares a personal anecdote about their own dog, Tippy.
Tippy, yeah. Describing him as the greatest winner of friends the world has ever known. Because he just instinctively gets this.
He didn't need to read the book.
Exactly. He didn't need a strategy. It was just pure, genuine interest and affection.
Which is such a great way to highlight the principle's simplicity. And to underscore why this is important, the source immediately reminds us just how much we as people tend to be focused on ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
It mentions this old New York telephone company study where the word I was used an astonishing, 3,900 times?
3,900 times in just 500 casual phone conversations. That number is, it's mind-boggling, isn't it?
It really is.
It really hammers home our default setting. And there's that classic question the source poses. When you look at a group photo, especially when you're in, whose face do you look for first?
Guilty. Every single time. Come on, we all know the answer.
Exactly. We all do it.
And this self-focus, or maybe the lack of interest in others, isn't just a minor social faux pas, according to the source. It quotes the famous Viennese psychologist Alfred Adler.
Adler, right, who made this really powerful statement. He said, "It is the individual who is not interested in his fellow men who has the greatest difficulties in life and provides the greatest injury to others."
Wow.
And then continues, "It is from among such individuals that all human failures spring."
That's a heavy statement. And the source emphasizes it. I think it even repeats it, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah, highlighting just how central Adler and the material sees this lack of interest in others. It's like a root cause of significant problems, even what's termed human failures.
So it's not just about being liked. It's foundational to navigating the world, really.
Seems like it.
Okay, so we see why it's important and the pitfall of the alternative, the self-focus. Let's dive into some concrete examples from the source material, how this principle played out for different people, showing its power in, various contexts.
Okay.
There's the story of the short story editor.
Yes, this editor had a fascinating insight. They could actually tell if an author genuinely liked people just by reading their work.
Really? Just from the writing? Apparently so. And their point was, if the author didn't seem to like people, readers wouldn't connect with their stories. They wouldn't like the stories.
And the clear connection the source makes is that this applies directly to face-to-face interaction, too. You have to have that underlying interest for others to connect with you. Makes sense.
Then there's the example of Howard Thurston, the legendary stage magician.
Oh, Thurston, right.
You might think his secret was, superior skill at illusions, being technically brilliant.
Yeah, better tricks.
But the source argues his real secret wasn't just the tricks. It was being a master showman who had a profound, genuine interest in his audience.
It says he had this practice telling himself just before walking out on stage.
What was it?
I love my audience. I love my audience.
Right. He saw them not just as people who bought tickets, but as individuals he wanted to give his all to. That genuine desire to connect, to make them happy,
Yeah.
that amplified his performance.
And led to huge success, financially, popularity, everything.
Yeah, the takeaway seems to be interest in the people you're serving, whether it's an audience or a customer, isn't secondary. It's central.
Okay, moving from the magic stage to the world of music, there's the story of George Dyke, known as Uncle George the Fiddle Scraper.
Uncle George?
He wasn't like a virtuoso fiddler, especially after retiring at 72.
Not at all. But he built this incredibly rich, fulfilling life and made friends all over the place.
How? By becoming genuinely interested in other fiddlers.
Exactly. He traveled to conventions, not to show off his playing, but to ask them about their music, their instruments, their lives. He was curious about them.
So he created a whole new social world for himself at 72 just by focusing his attention and interest outward onto a community he cared about.
Principle works at any age. It's never too late.
Definitely. And then we have the political arena, specifically Theodore Roosevelt, astonishingly popular.
Yeah, TR.
The material highlights that a key reason was his genuine interest in people across all walks of life, not just the important folks.
Like the anecdotes from his valet, James E. Amos, recounting Roosevelt calling his wife simply to point out a bobwhite outside her window, or greeting servants like James or Annie with that simple, friendly "ooh" as he walked by their cottage.
It's those small personal acknowledgments that matter, isn't it?
Totally. And Archie Butt's story is even more powerful. Roosevelt visited the White House after his presidency.
Right.
And despite all the fanfare, he went out of his way to greet all the old servants by name, even the scullery maids. He remembered them.
He even joked with the kitchen maid, Alice, about her cornbread, saying he'd tell the current president about his bad taste for not eating it upstairs.
Imagine how that felt. The source quotes Ike Hoover, the head usher, saying with tears in his eyes that day when Roosevelt came back and remembered them, that was the only happy day we had in nearly 2 years.
Wow. That's not just popularity. That's loyalty and deep affection earned through genuine personal interest, remembering people.
It really hits home.
The business world offers similar proof. There's the story of this sales representative, Edward M. Sykes, Jr.
Sykes.
He had a tough account, this drugstore owner. He managed to keep the business, even getting a double order, but not through some killer sales pitch to the owner.
How then?
It was because he made a point of greeting and talking to the soda clerk and the sales clerk whenever he visited.
The folks behind the counter.
Exactly. He showed them genuine interest, something apparently few other salespeople bothered to do.
Interesting. So what happened?
Well, when the owner was about to switch suppliers, the clerk actually spoke up for Sykes, said he was one of the few people who treated them with respect and interest.
So the clerk's word carried weight.
Apparently so. Sykes' takeaway was that this principle of genuine interest is crucial for a salesperson, or, as he put it, any person for that matter.
The gold nugget here is realizing that everyone, regardless of their position, is a person who appreciates being seen and acknowledged. That's powerful.
Definitely. The material also shows how genuine interest can even get you access to highly sought-after individuals.
Like who?
Well, the author describes wanting distinguished writers like Kathleen Norris and Fannie Hurst to speak to their fiction writing class. Big names.
Okay, tough to get, I imagine.
Right. So instead of sending a formal invitation, listing the class's credentials or whatever,
They did something different.
they wrote a sincere letter expressing genuine admiration for the author's work, asking them questions about themselves and their process. And they had it signed by all 150 students.
Wow, 150 signatures showing interest in the author.
And it worked. The authors, incredibly busy people, were apparently so touched by this display of sincere interest in them and their craft that they agreed to come.
That's a great story. So it wasn't about what the students wanted from them.
No, it was showing respect and interest in them. The source says they used the same method to get figures like William Jennings Bryan and Franklin D. Roosevelt to speak to public speaking students.
It's a pattern then. Focus the interest outward.
There's another incredible, almost fairy tale-like anecdote about the German Kaiser after World War I.
The Kaiser. Okay.
Yeah, amidst near universal international condemnation and hatred, just imagine, a little boy wrote him a simple, sincere letter expressing kindness and admiration.
Little boy, out of the blue.
Seems so. And the source highlights this because That simple, unsolicited act of genuine, kind interest deeply touched the isolated Kaiser.
I can imagine it would stand out.
It led to an invitation for the boy to visit, and,
Hmm.
well, ultimately the Kaiser married the boy's mother.
Whoa. Okay, that's unexpected.
Right. It's framed as that young boy, perhaps just instinctively, applying this profound principle at a time when pretty much no one else was showing the Kaiser any kindness.
Wow. Okay, so we've seen the principle in action across history, business, personal life, but how? How do you actually cultivate and show this genuine interest? It has to be real, right?
Right. The source emphasizes sincerity, but it does offer some practical suggestions.
Like what?
Well, one key way is simply putting yourself out for people, doing things for them that require time, energy, unselfishness, thoughtfulness.
Okay, effort.
Like the example of the Duke of Windsor. He apparently studied Spanish for months before a tour of South America,
Oh, right.
specifically so he could give his public talks in the local language. That's a significant investment of effort.
Absolutely. Purely to connect better with his audience and show them respect. That makes sense.
Another very concrete tip from the author is remembering birthdays.
Ah, birthdays. Simple but effective.
Their method was simple but effective. Repeat the date, write it down, put it on a calendar, and actually send a letter or telegram, not just a social media post.
Taking that extra step.
And the impact, the author notes, was often huge precisely because so few people really do it consistently. Being the only person who remembered, that made the gesture incredibly meaningful.
I can see that. Okay, what else?
Greeting people with animation and enthusiasm, making it clear you're pleased to interact with them.
Even on the phone.
Yeah, the source specifically mentions this for telephone conversations. Training operators to sound genuinely pleased to hear from the caller, to radiate interest.
So the caller feels the company actually cares.
Right, like that letter from Madeline Rosedale to her bank.
Right.
She praised a specific teller, Marie Petruccello,
Okay.
not just for being efficient, but because the teller asked about her hospitalized mother and showed genuine care. That moment of human connection built strong loyalty for the bank.
Just by asking a personal question and listening? Wow.
And then there's the story of Charles R. Walters, the bank employee.
Walters, right.
Yeah.
What was his situation?
He desperately needed confidential information from a very busy company president. The president was initially dismissive, busy guy, vague answers.
They had to brush off.
Pretty much. Walters couldn't get the information by pushing for it. But then he remembered something.
What?
The president collected stamps for his 12-year-old son.
Stamps. Okay, kind of random.
So Walters came back the next day, not asking for the info again, but bringing some stamps for the son. Just a small gift related to the president's personal interest.
Oh, what happened?
The president's demeanor completely transformed. He got all enthusiastic, spent like half an hour talking passionately about stamp collecting.
About stamps,
Yeah,
not business.
right. And then, without any further prompting, he gave Walters all the detailed information he needed, even called others to help get more info.
Incredible. So the breakthrough came not from focusing on the transaction,
know.
but on the person and something they cared about. The stamps.
Exactly. Which leads to maybe the most dramatic business example, C.M. Naffel Jr.
Naffel, the fuel salesman.
Right. He struggled for 10 years. 10 years. To sell fuel to a big chain store organization he actively disliked. He wasn't getting anywhere.
10 years is a long time to hit your head against a wall.
You think?
Yeah.
So he followed some advice to change his approach entirely. Instead of trying to sell fuel, he went to an executive at the organization and asked for a favor.
A favor. What kind?
He asked for help preparing for a debate where Naffel had to defend chain stores, the very industry he was trying to sell to.
Ooh, okay. That's bold. Asking your potential client, who you kind of dislike, to help you argue their side.
Pretty much. The executive initially agreed to just 1 minute, said he was busy. But Naffel's approach, showing interest in the executive's industry and perspective, asking for his expertise. It worked. The executive ended up giving him nearly 2 hours of his time.
2 hours from 1 minute.
Yeah, provided resources, shared insights, and completely changed Naffel's own attitude about the organization. He started to see their side.
That's a huge shift. Did he make the sale?
Even better. As Naffel was leaving, the executive put his arm around him, wished him luck on the debate, and offered to place an order for fuel, without Naffel even bringing it up again.
Wow. So he made more progress in 2 hours
by being genuinely interested in the executive.
than in 10 years trying to get the executive interested in his product. That's a potent illustration of the principle's leverage.
It really is. It's interesting how the source circles back to ancient wisdom to reinforce this. It quotes Publius Syrus, who lived like 100 years before Christ.
What did Cyrus say?
We are interested in others when they are interested in us.
Ah, it's a cycle. Makes sense. But the material is clear, isn't it? The interest has to be sincere.
Absolutely. It can't be just a tactic. It has to be, as the source says, a genuine two-way street. It benefits both parties. The person showing interest feels connection, and the person receiving it feels valued.
Right. Not manipulation. Real connection.
And maybe the most poignant story that captures the sheer human impact of this principle is Martin Ginsburg's.
Ginsburg. What's his story?
He tells about being a lonely, scared 10-year-old kid in the hospital on Thanksgiving Day.
Oh, tough situation for a kid.
Yeah, and it wasn't the doctors or his treatment he remembers most vividly from that day.
What was it?
It was a student nurse. She showed him genuine interest. She saw he was alone and scared. So she shared her own Thanksgiving dinner with him right there, played games with him, talked to him, and stayed well past her shift ended.
Wow. Just because?
Just because he was a little boy who clearly needed some connection and kindness on a tough day.
That's powerful.
That moment of unselfish, genuine interest from essentially a stranger, it made a painful, frightening experience bearable for him. He says he remembers that Thanksgiving every single year.
I bet he does. It transcends strategy, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's about profound human kindness rooted in just seeing and caring about another person.
Exactly. It shows this isn't just about networking or social climbing or sales tactics. It's
Yeah.
about enriching the human experience for everyone involved.
Yeah, deep stuff.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the source material, what's the core takeaway for you, the listener? What should you be thinking about?
Well, the fundamental principle presented is, I think, crystal clear. Becoming genuinely interested in other people is arguably the most powerful force for building connections, fostering loyalty, and just navigating the world effectively.
Yeah.
We've seen it illustrated across personal friendships like with Uncle George, business deals like Naffles, historical leadership with TR, and even those really intimate moments of deep vulnerability, like with Ginsburg and the nurse.
It fundamentally challenges our default tendency to focus inward, doesn't it? It suggests that looking outward with sincere curiosity and care is really the key.
So if showing genuine interest can transform difficult business relationships, if it can unlock access to influential people, build that unwavering loyalty like it did for Theodore Roosevelt, and even provide solace and make a lasting impact on a lonely child.
The question for you is, how might focusing less on trying to get others interested in you and more on simply being truly interested in them, how might that reshape the interactions and relationships you have starting, today?
Yeah. Something to consider as you move through your day.